Hey everyone, it's Steve here. Just wanted to take a moment to speak with you all about our show's sponsor, Tall Slim Tees. I cannot speak highly enough of their products. Just the other day, I put on one of my old shirts prior to ever wearing one of these Tall Slim Tees, and it just didn't feel right. Now that I've been wearing my Tall Slim Tees for a little while, they are without a doubt the most comfortable shirt I've ever been able to wear as a guy who's a little taller, a little bigger than average. It's so nice to have a shirt that truly fits. And if you want to know exactly what all the hype's about, then I encourage you to go to tallslimtees.com, where you will find their wide variety of selection with over 20 colors to choose from. And one last incentive, as you get to the checkout, be sure to enter promo code Korea10. That's the word Korea and the number 10, and you will save a further 10% on your order. So I cannot encourage it enough. Go to tallslimtees.com right now and be sure to grab yourself a new shirt today. And now let's get to the show.
I say to a lot of DJs, show me that you really want it, because there's so many people out there that say they want it, but what are they doing to get it? They're not working hard enough.
Welcome to Career Competitor, the show that seeks to light the competitive fire within you in order to succeed within your career. I'm Steve Meller, and this and every single episode is a part of the ever-growing CG Sports Network, who provide a wide array of content across multiple podcasts, across all social media, and through their website at cgsportsco.com. I'm really excited to be welcoming on an old friend of mine to the show this week, but before I introduce him, let me encourage you to subscribe and rate the show, and feel free to share the show as well with your friends on social media, specifically on Instagram, where you should definitely tag us at Korea_competitor, and be sure to check out our Instagram account as well, as you can see great footage of the episodes coming up and that have just been released. Now, as I already mentioned, we are bringing on a friend and former teammate of mine on the show today, Kal Jhugroo, who over the past decade has built himself an ever-growing and already very successful record label and agency. Underground Artists has evolved from a music blog into one of the UK's most sought-after artist management outfits. Since Kal established Underground Artists, he has built a superlative roster of contemporary artists, all of whom have their own unique niche and represent the very best in modern-day house music. What made Kal such a perfect guest to bring on to Career Competitor is that he has achieved so much in the last 9 years thanks to the very same skill set that made him an international open water swimmer for Great Britain 15 years ago. So much fantastic content to look forward to here within our discussion, but I encourage you all to firstly pay attention to the clear competitive edge Kal has when he talks about what he has achieved and the direction his career is heading, leaving no doubt that success will be a guarantee instead of a hope. But also be sure to hang around following the interview to hear my 3 main takeaways from the discussion in my keys to success. So let's welcome in former international swimmer turned house music agent Kal Jhugroo, and I hope you all enjoy. All right, well, I am incredibly excited to welcome on an old friend of mine from the UK, Kal Jhugroo, to join the Career Competitor podcast today. First and foremost, Kal, how are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm very good. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Just so excited to bring you on. A person who whether you obviously probably don't realize it, I've been following you over the Facebooks and all that kind of thing over the last few years, and the success of your career is something I've just simply been in awe of, honestly, and it's been fun to watch. And every time I see a new update from you in terms of the successes you're having, I'm even more excited for you every single time. But before I give any more away, Kal, tell everybody what it is you've been doing now for a few years.
So for 9 years now, I've been running a DJ booking agency and management company. We look after DJs from all over the world. We've got like Italy, Denmark, Norway, obviously UK, and we book DJs literally in flown around the world, almost every country. And then some of those I manage as well. All the DJs produce music, and I help them sign to record labels, look after things like press. That's it, really.
That's it, really. It's a little bit more than you make it sound sometimes. But yeah, you and I are obviously, good friends and connected back from probably 20 plus years ago now, which is scary to think. We're both getting on in years now. But at the same time, in terms of the competitor that I knew you were, and this is something I rarely get to be able to say about people I interview, is knowing who you were before who you are now. All my memories are just racing you and racing you in everything that we did, and always having plenty of time at the end of competitions to always let the other one know probably who got the better hand on whatever it was on that day. And just talk to everybody a little bit about your background in the sport of swimming and how far you went with it.
I'd say I went quite far. I'm really proud of everything I achieved. I represented England and Great Britain a number of times, both in the pool and in open water swimming. Open water swimming, I went to the World Championships when I was 15 in Japan. That was an amazing experience. I think open water swimming, I would almost credit my name as one of the names that kind of put it on the map, really, along with Greg Arfanides, who is actually coach as well as yourself now in America at Houston. Emma Collins, Heather Fredrickson, Matthew Kaiser, Aaron Yeoman, Adam Harvey. We were all regularly competing for Great Britain and England across the world and swimming some amazing places.
Yeah, I mean, but that's a really important point to make, honestly, and it's something I didn't even think about until you mentioned it. Is here we are today, and anybody that follows Olympic sports in general will see open water swimming represented at an extremely competitive level every single 4 years now.
It wasn't.
Exactly, and it wasn't always the case. It wasn't always the case, and you're exactly right. Yourself and the handful of people you reference in there. You were the beginning. You were where it all started. It really wasn't a competitive thing at all 20 years ago. And for you guys to not only invest your lives into competing within the sport, but then having that willingness to travel and compete at the highest level was only going to fly the British flag around the world and make it something for fellow Brits to aspire to be a part of. And here we are 20 years later with numerous British athletes that have climbed the mountain to the top of all the 10Ks and the 5Ks around the world. They've world champions, Olympic medalists, and you were right there at the beginning.
Yeah, and I don't want to kind of big myself up too much, but I honestly think that if it had have been in the Olympics, that I would have made it. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of one of the things that I'm kind of gutted about, really, because in the pool it was, people were starting to catch me up in there, but 5K was really my thing and always was, and I've always been sort of very good at honing my pace, as I'm finding now as I've started to get into running and cycling as well, and again back into my swimming, that on the sprints I'm kind of left behind, but as we get longer distances, I start to catch people up and beat people, really. I honestly think that if it had been in the Olympics then, that I would have been there.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. If you're traveling to World Championships, it was just a matter of time, like so many sports that eventually get their opportunity at the Olympic level. The only way that happens is the demand to participate in the sport continues to grow, and like we've said a couple times now, you were there at the beginning and you were part of that catalyst that really got things going, and that's something that in itself is something to be massively proud of, and I can relate and understand that feeling of being gutted about not having that opportunity at the Olympic level. But a few things you're saying here, then it's just throwing so many memories back into the forefront of my mind, with your ability to endure and keep going when others maybe weren't able to keep going. And again, fortunate enough to not only race against you as a younger kid, but then be on the same team as you for a couple of years in Stockport as well, and looking at looking at the person that you were there, you couldn't be broken. And I think that mindset is something that here you are today as an entrepreneur, as someone that's now heading into year 10 of his own career. How do you look back on maybe the summer that you were as an endurance athlete, more from a mental side now? And what did you get out of that feeling of knowing that, hey, I don't care how long you want to go for, but I'm going to keep going, and I'm not going to be broken?
Just satisfaction, really. I mean, I've always been very goal orientated, and I'd probably say, more so than ever over the past couple of years. Um, I mean, I kind of look back on my swimming and think I did a lot, but I could have done more. I relied on my parents a lot to do things like research around uh, food or certain supplements. I mean, I was taking protein and creatine and glutamine and all that, but it was all from my parents' knowledge. I didn't really do any of my own research or anything like that.
Mm,
I wasn't very flexible, and I wasn't doing enough stretching. I wasn't doing any recovery work like foam rolling or getting massages regular or anything like that.
mm,
So I was dedicated then and focused, but I think that kind of helped me in a business sense, um, because then I don't know, it's just instilled in me. It's just how I'm kind of made now. So everything I do, I set goals.
mm,
Um, I write to-do lists regularly, and try and meet deadlines ahead of schedule.
mm.
Um, I'm not sure if I've answered your question there. If I've
No,
gone right
no, but
now.
you have, and what you've done is you've kind of sparked another thought, because for hearing you talk about some of the areas, as dedicated as you were in some areas, you referenced there that you felt you were uneducated and unaware of other areas that you could have been able to incorporate in what you were doing. Looking at where you are now within the business world, do you not let yourself make that mistake now? Are you completely as educated, in your opinion at least, in terms of how you need to be?
No, I don't think so. But that's kind of a good thing because I'm always striving to better myself and look at new
Right.
ways of working. Um, you know, always looking to speak to other people and tap into their knowledge who might have been doing this for many more years than me. I've got a lot of close friends now in the music industry who I speak to regularly, and we all kind of help each other out and learn from each other, um, learn from each other's experiences. Um, and yeah, I'm just always looking at new ways of doing things and being more efficient all the time and
Hmm.
being more productive, doing whatever I can really to be a better version of myself.
That's great. That's great, and it's a massive message we always try to stress here is that willingness to not accept where we are, and it's okay. You can be very comfortable with who you are. That's fine, but I think that once you start accepting and saying, "Hey, I think I'm there. I think I've done it. I think I've achieved it." It's hard to be competitive at that point. I think
Yeah,
for listening to you talk, you can tell that the satisfaction is probably never going to fully be there, and there's always going to be that want to continue to strive to be better. And with that being said, this wasn't always your story. You decided to take the more, say, normal route of getting a normal 9 to 5 job. I tried it as well. It didn't
yeah.
work for me, and it didn't work for you. Talk me through that time in your life.
Well, I'm not sure how much of this you actually know, but part of the going into the sort of working world was involved around me leaving swimming,
Mm,
and it was a big decision to make whether I was going to keep swimming and train for 4 years and push for the Olympics, which in my heart I kind of knew that I really didn't think I was going to make it, or go to university and sort of work towards a career. But around that time, I was so unsure. So I actually applied to a lot of universities in America,
okay.
but then I never pursued it anymore. And I
Mm.
realized that I love Manchester so much and I couldn't leave. And but then at the same time, I didn't think that it was going to lead anywhere. And I thought I need to sort of get on with my career. And I went to university, studied accounting, and at the time, my sister was an accountant making great money. And if I'm honest, I kind of just looked at the money and
Yep.
didn't really look. I didn't fully know what an accountant was, and that's no lie. I went to university not really knowing what an accountant was, and I very quickly realised that I didn't like it at university. And I was after a year's university, I was close to quitting and doing something more creative around art or even fashion. Um, and then I was kind of like, it's not really in my nature to just give up on it just like that. So I ended
Right.
up finishing it, and I was
Right.
like, what am I going to do? So then I kind of looked at graduate schemes and got a job with the NHS on their management training program,
Mm-hmm.
which is, I think there was something like 7,500 applied to it that year. I think it was 240 spaces, and they were split over finance, HR, and general management. So I did the finance strand. I think it was about 80 to 100 of us on it, which was great. They helped me qualify to be a chartered management accountant as well. So I did my professional exams all at the same time as kind of really thinking this isn't for me. But during my time at university, I started working nightclubs with a guy called Minesh, known as Biggs in Manchester, who ran a lot of club nights. And I just started flyering for him basically outside the clubs, handing flyers out, and kind of progressed to a bit more than that, to sort of being his right hand man and helping him out a lot. And got to the point I was working 5-6 nights a week for him, and helping him open the club up. Sometimes being a warm up DJ, um, gathering data in the clubs, again, flying at the end, or trying to get people in the club during the nights. And that kind of developed my interest in the music industry. And then it was kind of all R&B music. And after I left university, I went to a club in Manchester called Sankey's, which unfortunately is closed now. Different type of music than I'd ever heard before, like sort of minimal techno. And I just completely fell in love with it. It was like a light switch moment for me. And then I was, out every Friday, Saturday listening to this sort of music, and got to meet a couple of DJs. And a few years down the line, they ended up starting their own night, and I became a partner in the night, and it kind of all developed from there. Really, that's how the business was born. I was picking the DJs up from the airport,
Yeah.
and I made a website to interview them, and then next thing I know, it's an agency. And so it was never right for me from the start, that kind of normal working world. And I almost fell into the music industry by accident, but I knew very early on that I kind of wanted to do something more creative.
Yeah, that's incredible stuff, honestly. And I've heard so many of these stories over the years, especially in the last couple doing this show, of people doing a degree, pursuing a career, whatever it may be, and in the back of their mind, always having this constant itch that they want to scratch, and just like, I don't understand what that is, and I can't figure out what that is. And for you, the answer slowly came to you simply by going to clubs and pursuing this opportunity to listen to and be around this music that really resonated with you. And I find that to be just incredible, because so many people that we have on the show are where they are today because they started with some sort of passion project, and for you it wasn't even that. It almost sounds like it was just another way to make some money, and then slowly you started to see the potential that
Yeah,
you could maybe have with it.
I was working for the first 2 years of the company. I was still working as an accountant, so
Yeah.
it was kind of like a hobby for the first 2 years. And then
Right.
a massive agency came in. I mean, these are making millions of pounds, looking after some big DJs, but also some like huge singers. We're talking names like right at the top. They came
Right.
in wanting to buy 50% of the company. And that was kind of like, wow, if they see something in what I'm doing, and I need to kind of see something in what I'm doing. And then the next day, I went into work and handed my notice in, worked for the next 4 weeks, and then that was it. I haven't looked back since.
It's amazing. It's honestly amazing. I love it, and I'm obviously so happy for you and hearing the story, because for me, this opportunity with this podcast, where I am in the process of this, is I'm just sharing stories right now. This isn't this is a hobby for me too. I get what that feeling is like when you're first starting out with something that really does hit home with you and allows you to be creative. Something that you and I have always had in common is that just willingness to want to be creative. And I think for me with swim coaching, believe it or not, I have many opportunities in that platform as well to be creative in my own way. And I think, this podcast is an extension of that creativity as well. But for you personally, we've talked about it already. Satisfaction isn't something that comes easy to you. I've been following some of your most recent success, names at the top of charts around both the UK and Europe. What's the future going to be, man? Because you're obviously not done. You've got a long way to go.
Obviously, I would love to expand and become a much bigger company, employ some staff, and just get the best for my artists. Really, it's all about what I can do for them, to help them, to make them household names, to make them headlining the biggest festivals around the world, the biggest clubs, the biggest gigs. It's kind of like probably the satisfaction that you would get as a coach when your swimmers do well and that they're on the podium. It's the same thing for me, seeing my artists out there, being played on, whether it's being played on Radio 1 or headlining a festival or being number one in the charts, or not always number one, top 10, or even top 100 sometimes. Is tough. There's a lot of competition out there now.
Yeah, and we were kind of laughing a little bit before we started recording here about who we are as competitors and how we live with we live with spouses in our lives that maybe don't quite understand that version of us and probably never will, to be honest. But in terms of the competitor that you are now, how much do your artists maybe connect with you on that level? Do they feel that desire from you to best represent them so that they can be as successful as possible?
I think they do, yeah. We'll often have conversations where they see how passionate I am, and sometimes they'll message me saying, we love how enthusiastic and excited you are about this track or whatever, and they know that I work hard, and it's another thing that people can put me down on. They know that I'm a hard worker.
It's obvious that they must have that connection with you. You just, it's impossible not to. And again, I look back on 25 years ago when we were growing up in the sport of swimming. As an energy, as an aura, you always had that. You always had something about you that people gravitated towards. And I think hearing that you're now representing people, therefore having that ability to influence them and connect with them, most importantly, have that connection with them where they feel they are being represented, best represented as possible by you, that's only going to allow for success, and it's only going to allow for your agency and for all these artists within it to continue to grow. And out of curiosity, who do we need to hear about? Who do we need to know about? You can't obviously play favorites when you're doing what you're doing, but
it's I talk about young people that are coming through, and there's two young guys from Manchester called Mandalo that I've just taken on, who very, very new right at the start of the careers, but I'm predicting really big things from those guys. Two great female DJs, Just Her, and a new one to join the agency, Cyrita. I've got to give shout outs to 3 DJs who are in the top 10 best-selling artists in the world for Tech House right now. Martin Aiken, who's number 1. Night Funk, number 2. And I think Clooney we've got at number 7 or 8. God, it's so hard, so many of them are doing big things. The Glazier.
It's a nice problem to have, mate. Yeah. It's a nice problem to have, all these names that you're trying to remember that are all being success stories. And I think that's just a testament to your 9 years of graft up to this point. And
sorry, I've got to say Will Taylor as well. Such a hard worker. I can't leave him out. He works crazy hard. And, some of my artists have wanted to work with me for like 2, 3 years, and it's been a case of me often saying no, and they keep coming back and updating me with what they're doing, or me saying, you need to go away and do this. And Will Taylor was someone who came to me for 2 years, and I kind of said, no, it's not right. You need to go away and do this and do that. And he'd come back and say, right, I've done this now. What's next and stuff. And he's such a hard worker. He's a great person to work with.
Well, do you find that you're bringing on talent that mirrors your mindset?
I think so. Yeah. I kind of put it out there though at the start what I'm like, and when I find talent, I always ask them for a Skype call or a Zoom call, and trying to get to know them first and get a feel for them. I really need to get some sort of energy off them, because I mean, most of my artists, that they're like my best friends, and I speak to them daily. And if we don't get on, I'm going to struggle to work with them.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Brilliant. Well, you also mentioned a couple times before you're back in the pool, you're training again. Every other social media post I see from you at the moment, I'm looking at you and I'm thinking, this guy's making me look bad right now. He's getting in great shape. Where did that come from? Where did the desire to get back in?
You know what? So I've kind of had this obsession with a six pack since I had one when I swam. But I've always had a love of food, and I stopped exercising and just kept eating and got quite big. My mates will say now, yeah, you were fat. They weren't at the time, but they're now saying that I was. But my mate was getting married last year in September, so I said I'm gonna get in shape for that, and that kind of kick-started it. And I got in the pool, and then my local club asked me to do a competition for them after being back in the pool a couple of weeks. And I was like, okay. So that was March last year, and then June was Ironman, and Ironman UK is like 5 minutes away from my house. The start,
Right.
in the swims in the local lake. I said, right, I'm gonna go and watch it. I was just like so hyped by it. I was, straight after it, I went on social media and posted a picture of the logo and said, I'm doing it next year. And because I'd put it out there on social media that I was doing it, I'd kind of committed then. I was, there's no going back now. So a couple of weeks later, bought a bike, got a coach, entered my first triathlon, and then, really haven't looked back since, become crazy dedicated to it. I can't even describe how into it I am now, way more than I ever was in swimming back in the past. And it's almost an obsession now. But you mentioned something earlier on about, I think about something that I said about how, how we always want more, but it's so true. I've already started to look at other things like an ultra marathon, an ultra triathlon, an ultra Ironman. And it's like, what more can I do? I've not even done my first half Ironman yet, and I'm already looking about how much further I can do, and what I get really worked up if I don't perform in a training session, or if I have to miss a training session for whatever reason, whether it be that my wife's at work and I've got the kids, or it's just kind of part of me again now. It's kind of who I am. I've become an athlete again, and I'm crazy obsessed by it, like I said. And yeah,
well, you're all in. You're all in again. And I think my only other thought now is, how is this new lifestyle outside of your work impacting your work itself?
I actually worried at first what my artists were going to think, because I was thinking they're just going to see me training all the time, because I do, when I do well, I do like to share it. And it's nice when I see friends and stuff and they comment about how much weight I've lost or how well I look. It feels good, and it feels good when someone comments when you do a good training session as well. And I did an all right time, I guess, for 5K recently, and a lot of nice comments around it, and it makes you feel good. So yeah, kind of worried about what my artists were going to think about how much I was doing, because they might think I was neglecting them. But it's actually benefited my business, because I find now that I'm eating better and training well, I'm sleeping better, or not necessarily sleeping more. Some nights I'm getting 4-5 hours sleep, or even less
Yeah.
sometimes. I'm I could be working till 1 a.m. and could be getting up at 5 a.m. to go swimming.
Mm-hmm.
But I before I was just waking up so tired and lying in bed for an hour, not being productive. I wouldn't really do any work till around 10:30.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now I'm getting up at 5 and going swimming, but then I'm up and I'm
Right.
home by 7:30 and ready to work and
Right.
get business done then. So I'm actually finding that I'm more productive, and kind of the drive to succeed in sport has reignited the drive to succeed in my business a bit as well. And
Absolutely.
as I said earlier on the call, that I'm probably more goal orientated now than I've ever been, and that's a part of me being back in sport and where I see myself in the future and everything. And yeah, it kind of all links together really well.
Absolutely. I've always, especially in the last 3 or 4 years, for me, 4 years ago, I was a swim coach, and that was it. I didn't really find that I had many other reasons to wake up in the morning aside from being a good swim coach and making the best environment possible for my athletes. And in the space of 4 years, I've gone from that to being married, having 2 kids, having a podcast. And for me, the more and more and more I bring into my life, the more and more I find myself wanting to invest in myself in terms of,
Yeah.
it's like my wife, she can't stand it. I'm like, I haven't worked out today. And she's like, well, it's just one day. I'm like, no, 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 no. You don't understand. You
Yeah.
don't understand. It's like, so when I get 30 minutes, I'm running into the garage, I'm going to work out, and I'm going to come back, I'm going to shower, and then I'm just going to carry on with the rest of my day. But I need that 30 minutes. I need that 30 minutes. And
Yeah.
I think hearing you talk, it's so refreshing to hear, because I think so many people listen to this that are saying, I'm so busy with work, I'm so overwhelmed with work, I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that. I always turn around and look at those people and say, if it means enough, you will always have time. You will
Yeah, if
always,
you want
always,
it enough.
always have
Yeah.
time.
It's I say to a lot of DJs, show me that you really want it.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so many people out there that say they want it, but what are they doing to get it?
Mm-hmm.
They're not working hard enough.
Right.
Um,
Absolutely.
and for sure, there's some days where there is literally no time because you've done absolutely everything you can in the day, and there's just no time left. But I'd say to use that as an excuse every day isn't good
Mm-hmm.
enough.
Right.
You can make time,
Mm-hmm.
and you can squeeze things in where you can get up at 30 minutes earlier if you don't have time to train. Do it before you go to work.
Mm-hmm.
Do it before you go to bed. Do it on your lunch break. There's plenty of time to do it. Do it at work. If do some squats or some press ups in a toilet. I've done it before, and you might get some funny looks, but who cares
Mm.
what people think?
Absolutely. That's a great sentiment to finish this on. It really is. If it's about you, if it's about what you want for your best interests and for your successes, it's really important just to focus on you and not get too distracted by what others think. With all that in mind, before I let you go, Kal, tell everybody where they can find out more about both yourself and also all the work that you're doing with your agency too.
Yeah. So for myself, on Instagram, I'm underground Kal. That's Kal. And for the agency, you can find us at Underground Artists Agency.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, anybody listening to this, check out some of the artists. Go check out Kal. He's a fun follow on social media for sure. Someone I've enjoyed following for years now. And Kal, honestly, mate, this has been a really, really fun 35, 40 minutes opportunity just to catch up. Always thought so highly of you, and it's great to see you being so successful. So thanks again.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, it's great to see you being successful out there too.
Cheers.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man.
And my thanks again to Kal for joining us on the show today. And as always, we'll finish with my keys to success, starting with my competitive call, which is patience. It is so reassuring to hear how Kal was willing to invest so much time and energy into gaining education and experience for himself within his initial career without just panicking when it didn't quite feel right. He felt that yearning to be doing something else, but he never forced it, and eventually the right decision evolved before his eyes. I personally believe that all the education and experience he gained while pursuing an accounting degree and working within the British medical system built him into a more well-rounded entrepreneur for when he was ready to transition into his own business full-time. A big part of patience comes back to having faith in yourself, and Kal makes it clear throughout our chat that he has always been ready to bet on himself, knowing he would never walk away from a challenge. Next is my teachable takeaway. Can we be helped by not being provided opportunity? A lot of what we discuss on this show is about inspiring people to better themselves and in turn their career. But what if I told you that one of the best things that can either happen to you or can do for someone else is be told you are in fact not ready for the opportunity you want? It would be nice to always receive yes after yes and be handed every position and role you want in that moment. But I know firsthand how being denied opportunity can be the measuring stick for how badly you want something in the first place. People find out the most about themselves when they are denied a chance in life. You will soon realize just how much that opportunity meant to you in the first place. And finally, my motivational move. Have an outlet. Kal's story of re-establishing his swimming and fitness regime is an awesome example of how implementing an outlet away from your career can actually strengthen the career competitor you already are. Despite now being busier than ever on a daily basis, Kal has never felt readier to take on his day and build the business to new heights. The show is about taking the mindset of an athlete into the world of your career, but don't forget that you can also strengthen those very same traits in your life away from the office too. So if you don't have an outlet, establish one. And if you do have an outlet, the way I do with my fitness plan and of course this podcast, then find some ways to build upon the competitor you can be within that area too. Thanks so much for listening and continuing to support the Career Competitor podcast. Don't forget to rate and share the show. And in the meantime, best of luck with everything you have going on within your world. And I look forward to speaking with you all again very soon. Bye for now.